Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. And for today's show, we're going to be pretty much like how we always do, just be talking about a lot of NFL. We'll be talking about the Week 15 games going on this past Sunday. We'll be talking about the Seattle Seahawks, whether or not their whole Super Bowl window has closed. And let's see, we'll talk about the Cowboys, we'll talk about the Lions, we'll talk about the Jaguars, we'll talk about a bunch of other teams, we'll talk about the primetime games from Week 15, the game between the Dallas Cowboys and Oakland Raiders. We'll talk about each of those teams when we do that, and we'll fit in the, Monday night game between the Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'll actually talk about why I have a problem with Julio Jones now. So we'll talk about that, and in the last segment of the show, we'll make our Week 16 picks, since this is going to be the only show of the week. Actually, won't be back till next Friday because of the whole holiday season. You know, Christmas is coming up. Going to be a fun time. Get to be with the family. Hopefully, you get to be with yours too, or whoever you spend it with. But yeah, so I mean, let's just get it started. We're going to start off with the games from Saturday. We had the Chicago Bears heading into Detroit. Detroit won that game 20-10. Mitch Trubisky had 314 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Jordan Howard had 10 carries for 37 yards, no touchdowns. And Kendall Wright had 7 receptions for 81 yards. Chicago really, I mean, this is a team, I think they have their quarterback for the future. I think that's it's looking likely like Mitch Trubisky is going to be the guy. It's looking like that they're going to get rid of John Fox, and they're going to bring in some new coach, and hopefully it's a younger coach. I mean, because these younger coaches really been working. I mean, look at Sean McVay over there in Los Angeles with the Rams. I mean, making Jared Goff look like, got to sneeze real quick, or at least feels like it. All right, false alarm, no sneeze. But yeah, I mean, you had Jeff Fisher out there last year making Jared Goff look like he was lost, and this year you got Sean McVay making Jared Goff look like a great quarterback. So we'll see how it all ends up. But yeah, Mitch Trubisky needs a new coach, and he needs some new receivers too. So let's hope Santa Claus goes out and gets those for him. As for the Detroit Lions, you had Matt Stafford with 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Theo Riddick had 8 carries for 49 yards. He led all Detroit running backs. Then you had Marvin Jones Jr. with 3 catches for 85 yards, no touchdowns. Eric Ebron had 5 catches for 33 yards and a touchdown. And Golden Tate only had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Right now, I mean, Matt Stafford, he's been playing well, and he's on a mission right now. He wins his next 2 games, which is against who are they playing next week? Who are they playing? They're playing the Bengals and then the Packers. Those are 2 very winnable games right there. They win those 2, they're more than likely in the playoffs, and we'll actually talk a little bit more about the Lions later on in the show, and pretty much talk about that whole little playoff mission they're going on. So, as for this next game, which was on Saturday, we had the Kansas City Chiefs facing off with the Los Angeles Chargers. This game took place in Kansas City, and isn't it crazy, actually, though, how Kansas City isn't in Kansas? I think Kansas is its own state, but, of course, Kansas City, that's in Missouri, because that makes total sense, right? I hope I'm really right about this, because of geography ain't my thing, but, yeah, it just seems weird to me. Kansas City's in Missouri, right? Kansas City, Missouri, yeah. Yeah, all right, I should be right. Otherwise, I'm going to sound like a fool. But either way, you had Kansas City beating the Chargers 30-13. So the Chargers fooled us. They were not who we thought they were. Okay? They were not. All right, Chargers started off 1-4, I think it was. Came back to being 7-6. So that's 6-2 their last 8 games. Look at me doing math right there. But so yeah, we're thinking, the Chargers, they're gonna be good. They're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna make a little bit of noise. They're playing really good. Probably one of the better rosters in all the NFL. I mean, that's all just a matter of, you could have like one of the best rosters in the NFL. It's just a matter of putting it all together and making it all work in sync. And the Chargers were doing well to do that. They were playing well. They were blowing everyone out, scoring a lot of points, playing good defense. And this Chargers team right here, they fooled us. They go out to Kansas City rather than even like lose and make it a close game. That's one thing, okay? But they go out and they get blown out by the Chiefs. And the Chiefs haven't been playing well for they started off 5-1, so whatever. After those 6 games, they haven't played well. And for them to go out and just pretty much get blown out like that just reminds me of the teams that they had with Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson. Those teams, are they going to the Super Bowl? They make it to the AFC Championship against the Patriots? So is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? They get blown out and pretty much fold when it matters most. Obviously, this team isn't as good as those teams with LaDainian Tomlinson and Phillip Rivers, a younger Phillip Rivers, but this is pretty much like the B team to that team. This team, they play well in the regular season. When it matters most for playoff time, they don't make it. Okay, they fold at the end. And I'm just messing around like a little bit with them. Obviously they still have a chance. They have 2 more games left. They got who do they have this week? I don't know. I guess we'll have to find that out. But yeah, they got someone this week, and then they play the Raiders after that, week 17. So, Chargers still got a chance to make that wild card, and we'll talk about why, because there's a certain team with 2 games left who is going to break their certain fan base's heart once again and continue their longest playoff drought and the longest active playoff drought. And I'm not going to name who that team is. You can try and figure that out on your own, but we'll talk about them too. But, Chargers really need to figure it out. But like I said, let's get into the stats already. You had Phillip Rivers in this game with 227 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Melvin Gordon had 19 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 91 yards, and Keenan Allen had 5 receptions for 54 yards. As for those Chiefs, you had Alex Smith throw for 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt had 155 yards, 1 touchdown, also had 51 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. Then you had Tyreek Hill with 5 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown, and Travis Kelce 6 receptions for 46 yards, no touchdowns. Miami headed into Buffalo, faced off with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo won that one 24-16. Classic Jay Cutler. I'm going to go out, have one of my best games of my career against the New England Patriots on Monday night in prime time. You know what? We got a decent chance of making the playoffs. What am I going to go do? Go head into Buffalo and throw 3 interceptions. He threw for 274 yards, no touchdowns. Like I said, threw 3 picks in that game. Kenyon Drake, 16 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 35 yards receiving. Jarvis Landry had 10 catches, 99 yards. And Devontae Parker finally showed up in the game. 6 receptions for 89 yards. As for those good old Buffalo Bills, and again, if you were wondering which team I was talking about, extending the longest active playoff drought, it might be the Buffalo Bills. It might not be. It is the Buffalo Bills. And we'll actually talk about that in the 3rd segment. But actually, we'll talk about that in the 4th segment when I'm making my picks, because that's what it ties into right there. So you got Tyrod Taylor for the Bills in this game, though. 224 yards, 1 touchdown. Also took off with the ball 6 times, 42 yards. Also had a rushing touchdown. LaShawn McCoy, 20 carries, 50 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 46 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. And Charles Clay led all Buffalo Bills receivers with 5 receptions for 68 yards. No touchdowns from him. As for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings, obviously this was the easiest game to pick from last weekend. If you thought Cincinnati had any chance of winning, you were wrong, and you're either a Cincinnati Bengals fan or you just hate the Vikings that much. The Vikings won that game 34-7. Andy Dalton, 113 yards, 2 interceptions. Giovanni Bernard, only 30 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. And A.J. Green, nowhere to be found, only 2 catches for 30 yards. As for those Minnesota Vikings, you had Case Keenum, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Teddy Bridgewater came in, got a standing ovation. It was a great sight to see, listen to it all and just pretty much see. And I'm sure for Teddy Bridgewater like that coming in, you know what he repays him with? First pass, touchdown? No, he threw a pick. Yeah, so we finished that for finished his little series 0 of 2, 1 interception. Latavius Murray had 20 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, and Jerick McKinnon led all Minnesota receivers with 7 catches for 114 yards, and Stephon Diggs even brought in a touchdown in that game. As for the next game, we had the Green Bay Packers heading into Carolina facing off with the Panthers. Panthers won this one 31-24. This was Aaron Rodgers' first game back since his collarbone injury, and he pretty much played about as well as you'd expect he could, coming off of 7-game absence off of a collarbone injury. Came out, threw for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. Aaron Jones led all Green Bay running backs with 3 carries and 47 yards. Jamal Williams had 30 yards in that one. Randall Cobb finally showed up. Nice to see he actually playing football. He had 7 receptions for 84 yards, a touchdown. Richard Rodgers had 1 touchdown also, 4 receptions, 77 yards. And Devontae Adams had 5 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers comes back. Jordy Nelson's still missing. Maybe it's just Jordy. As for Carolina, you had Cam Newton, big game from him, 242 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, also took off the ball 14 times, had 58 yards. Christian McCaffrey, good yardage game from him, 63 yards rushing, 73 yards receiving, and a touchdown. Greg Olsen finally had a good game since he's come back, 9 receptions, 116 yards, and a touchdown. And as for this next game, you had the Browns. Did they win? Of course not. They lost 27-10. Joe Flacco had 288 yards, 1 touchdown. Buck Allen had 70 yards rushing. Alex Collins only 19. Mike Wallace, 6 receptions for 89 yards, no touchdown. And good old Ben Watson. And I was talking about this on the sports podcast because I was talking about this game too. Did Ben Watson, he was called Ben Watson on the Patriots, but now he goes by his full name, Benjamin Watson, on the Ravens. And I was thinking to myself, almost confused myself, is this 2 different people? Because why would you go from Ben and then to Benjamin? I think this is a guy, he's on the he's with the players union. I think he has one of those positions, high positions that the players can hold, but maybe that's why he's gone with Benjamin, because it's more professional. Benjamin Watson rather than Ben Watson. But nonetheless, the guy had 4 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown. As for those good old Cleveland Browns, got 2 games left to figure out this whole winless thing. They got Deshaun Kaiser, 146 yards, 2 interceptions. Isaiah Crowell, only 5 carries for 72 yards. Duke Johnson Jr. had 23 yards rushing and a touchdown, also had 40 yards receiving. Josh Gordon had 5 receptions for 47 yards. Like I said, once again, the Browns lost. And we'll actually talk about the Browns in the 4th segment when I'm making my picks. A little foreshadowing there. Maybe I'm going to pick them, maybe I'm not. As for the New York Jets, headed into New Orleans, obviously the Saints won this one, 31-19. Bryce Petty, 19 of 39 throwing the ball, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jets need a quarterback. Bilal Powell, 13 carries, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. Elijah McGuire led all receivers. As far as yards goes, he had 3 receptions, 48 yards, and a touchdown. Excuse me. Had a little hiccup right there. But as for those good old New Orleans Saints, 281 yards from Drew Brees, passing the ball, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mark Ingram, 74 yards, rushing the ball, 2 touchdowns. Also had 5 catches for 77 yards. Alvin Kamara, 12 carries for 44 yards. Also had 44 yards receiving and a touchdown. And Mike Thomas, 9 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Once again, Saints won that one big time, 31-19. Next game up, we got Nick Foles, we trust. Philly wins this one, 34-29. Nick Foles, 237 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jay Ajayi, only 12 carries, 49 yards. I'm going to go out and say Miami Dolphins won that trade. But Nelson Aguilar, 7 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Zach Ertz, 6 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. And Alshon Jeffrey, 4 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. As for those New York football Giants, Eli Manning, 434 yards, 3 touchdowns. You know he's Eli Manning, so he's going to be consistent. Also had that 1 interception right there. Wayne Gallman led all running backs in New York. He had 8 carries for 39 yards. Orleans Darkwa had 9 carries for 7 yards and a touchdown. Sterling Shepard, 11 catches, 139 yards, 1 touchdown. And Evan Ingram had 8 catches for 87 yards. As for those new Arizona Cardinals, they headed into Washington, faced off with the Redskins. Cardinals lost that one 20-15. Blaine Gabbert had 189 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. In what world is the offensive coordinator in Arizona letting Blaine Gabbert throw the ball 41 times? Do you know how dangerous you're living, letting Blaine Gabbert throw the ball 41 times? Incredible. So yeah, he had 1 interception. Kerwin Williams had 17 carries for 61 yards. Led all Arizona running backs. And of course, Larry Fitzgerald, 5 receptions, 60 yards. Led all Arizona receivers. As for these Washington Redskins, you had Kirk Cousins with 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's going to be the guy who's the highest paid quarterback of all time in the offseason. The guy who's throwing for 196 yards. That's him. Samaje Perine had 14 carries for 37 yards, and Jamison Crowder led all receivers with 5 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown. As for those Seattle Seahawks, oh yeah, it's December time. Seattle, tough to beat in Seattle. Yeah, tell that to the Rams. Rams blew them out 42-7, made Seattle look like a Pop Warner team. Jared Goff, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Seattle played so bad, Sean Mannion came in the game. Todd Gurley came in, 21 carries, 152 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Also had 3 receptions for 28 yards and a touchdown. And Robert Woods, 6 catches, 45 yards and a touchdown from him. As for those Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, 142 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Also took off with the ball 5 times for 39 yards. Pretty much led Seattle in rushing. Not pretty much, he did. Luke Wilson had the only touchdown for Russell Wilson on one 26-yard catch, and J.D. McKissick, Seattle's running back, led all receivers, 3 receptions for 38 yards. Once again, Seattle got blown out. All right, next game. Probably game of the weekend. New England faced off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, you know what happens when Pittsburgh faces off with New England. New England wins. New England won 27-24. Tom Brady had 298 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Dion Lewis, 13 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Rex Burkhead, 4 carries, 12 yards, 1 touchdown. I think he blew out his knee in that one, so he's going to be gone for the rest of the year. Rob Gronkowski had 9 receptions for 168 yards. Someone might have wanted to cover that guy in the game. I'm not too sure. I didn't get to watch it. I was at work, but you know what? Maybe just not let him run free the whole time. But Brandon Cooks had 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. As for those Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw an interception that came at the end of the game. Le'Veon Bell, 24 carries, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 48 yards receiving. Juju Smith-Schuster, big game from him, 6 receptions, 114 yards, no touchdowns. And Martavis Bryant had 4 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. All right. Oh, also in that game, Antonio Brown came out, tore his calf muscle, should be back for the playoffs. That's what he said. Not me. That's what he said. All right, but end of the game. Jesse James catches a ball and stretches the ball out, crosses the goal line, looks like a touchdown, and as soon as he hits the ground, ball falls out. But he did catch it, knees hit the ground, and like I said, ball stretched out. But this whole catch rule that no one understands, not even the refs, not even Roger Goodell, no one understands this catch rule. I guess it's like pretty much when you catch the ball and you go, like you drop to a knee and you reach it out or whatever. And let's say that you reach it out and, before your knee hits, you reach it out over the goal line. That's not a touchdown anymore. Okay. You know what you have to do? You basically have to catch the ball, reach it over the goal line. Okay. Knees have to hit the ground. Then you got to hit the ground, do a couple of rolls, and still manage to maintain possession of the ball. Okay. It's not simple anymore, okay? You got to do a whole bunch of tricks in order to complete a catch, obviously. Because the NFL, this whole rule is dumb. All right? It should have been a touchdown, okay? Him catching the ball, reaching over, knee hits, then he hits the ground. Then the ball comes out. His knee already hit. I thought once the knee hits, you're down. Once the ball is over the goal line, that's a touchdown. Okay? Let's go. Process. Ball reaches over the goal line. Touchdown. Knee hits the ground. He's down. Rest of Jesse James' body hits the ground. Ball comes out. Oh, nope. That negates everything, even though he did the first 2 things right. Doesn't make sense to me. But nonetheless, Patriots get another call, and Pittsburgh loses that game. As for the Tennessee Titans, this team is free falling, okay? Free falling. Started off 8-4, now 8-6. Lost to the 49ers. San Francisco won that one 25-23. Tennessee's not making the playoffs. I promise you. They're going to lose to the Rams next week, and they're going to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars the week after that. Marcus Mariota had 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. DeMarco Murray, 18 carries, 59 yards. Derrick Henry, 7 carries, 19 yards. Rashard Matthews had 6 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. And Delaney Walker had 5 catches for 37 yards and a touchdown. As for those 49ers, they got their quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo's out here playing on fire. 381 yards passing the ball, 1 touchdown. Carlos Hyde led all running backs, 16 carries, 25 yards. Marquise Goodwin had 10 catches for 114 yards. Ever since Garoppolo came out there, he's been playing really well. And Garrett Selleck might be Garoppolo's favorite tight end. He had 3 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown. As for the Sunday night and Monday night game, we'll be talking about that in the next segment, but that's actually going to wrap it up for this segment, of course. So like I said, next up we'll be talking about the Raiders-Cowboys game and the Falcons-Buccaneers game, and we'll talk about why Julio Jones and me have a beef. So yeah, we'll talk about that. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to my favorite football podcast, the GSMC Football Podcast. Might be a little biased in that one, but nonetheless, my favorite football podcast. I don't know, the host is he's a pretty good host, but that guy's pretty good at what he does. But let's see, last segment, we talked about the Week 15 games, talked about the scores and stats, talked a little bit about each game, talked about a few teams, talked about how Jesse James, that should have been a catch, and how the catch rule is dumb if that's not a catch. But either way, what can you do? Both those teams, either way, though, they got to worry about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to talk more about the Jaguars in the third segment, along with the Seattle Seahawks. But Jaguars are going to be a team you need to worry about come playoff time. That's a team, I'm not even going to say more. We'll talk about them in the next segment. But all right, let's talk for this segment. Let's talk Sunday Night Football, and then after that, we're going to talk some Monday Night Football. So let's start off. Dallas Cowboys faced off with the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. You know what Dallas did? They won 20-17. Dak Prescott, 212 yards, 2 interceptions. Dude, that guy's numbers are terrible. How do you throw 2 interceptions against the Oakland Raiders defense? That defense is brutal. But either way, they won. Alfred Morris had 16 carries for 61 yards. Dak Prescott took off with the ball 6 times, had 32 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. Rod Smith had 7 carries for 13 yards and a touchdown. Dez Bryant, overrated. He had 2 catches for 59 yards. Jason Witten also had 4 catches for 47 yards. Derek Carr for the Oakland Raiders had 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Marshawn Lynch, 16 carries, 76 yards. Seth Roberts led all receivers with 3 catches for 52 yards. Michael Crabtree had 7 catches for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's how those stats went. Let's talk a little bit about these teams. Let's start with the Oakland Raiders. So, as it's known, and as I've talked about in the last couple of podcasts when talking about the Raiders, this team's going to Vegas, okay? I think they're going to Vegas in 2019. All right? And these fans were sold the dream that this team was going to be competing for an AFC championship, going to be competing for the Super Bowl. Was that unrealistic? I'm starting to think, yeah. All right? Yeah, this team, offense, on paper, should be one of the best offenses in the league, okay? If Amari Cooper could get out of his own head and pretty much learn how to catch the ball again, he'd be a whole lot better. He's pretty much, was he out last game? Was he still hurt? Has he been hurt? Or has he just been pretty much missing? I don't know. I wasted a second-round pick on you, Amari Cooper, and you let me down. But either way, I did end up trading Amari Cooper like week 2, though, so that worked out pretty well. I ended up getting Michael Crabtree and Michael Thomas out of it. I did trade Devontae Parker, too. I'm kind of like Danny Ainge when I'm making these trades, all right? Pretty much, I win out, you lose out. That's how it's always going to go, and it's pretty much, I'm that guy in the league, But either way, let's talk about these Raiders again, all right? So that whole Super Bowl dream, AFC Championship dream, they got sold. Starting to think that everyone bought into their hype a little bit too much. Not saying the Raiders are a bad team. This year, yeah, they are. Okay, but with the whole, I'm starting to see on Twitter a bunch of Raider fans starting to turn on Derek Carr a little bit, all right? Obviously there's a lot of Raider fans, and when I say a bunch, I'm talking about, it's like the silent majority, loud minority, all right? That's what it is right here, okay? You're seeing a lot of fans on Twitter starting to voice their concern over Derek Carr, how they gave him that big old contract, okay? How they shouldn't have, how he's been playing poorly. Yeah, the guy kind of fractured his back early on in the season and came back a week after. How about we think of that? Maybe that's why Derek Carr isn't playing like how he was last year. Maybe Derek Carr isn't playing well, okay, because maybe those Oakland receivers don't know how to catch the ball, especially you, Amari Cooper. Michael Crabtree, you dropped the ball a lot too. All right, this team can't catch the ball. It can't catch it cold, okay? This Oakland Raiders team, it's not Derek Carr's fault. It's not, okay? You want to know whose fault it is? Whoever decided to draft and sign all those players on the defense besides Khalil Mack. That defense is garbage. Terrible. Awful. Is there another adjective I can use? Garbage, terrible, awful, disgusting. You get it, okay? That defense is awful. You're not winning. You're not going to win anything with a terrible defense. Why don't people understand this? Why don't GMs understand this? You can't win unless you have a good defense. Why does everyone try to go against this? And, I'm going to pick up the best offense. I'm going to pick up all the best offensive players. No, you're not winning a game. Okay, you're not winning anything unless you have a good defense. Obviously, the Raiders, they don't have a good defense. They let Dak Prescott beat them. All right? That whole Super Bowl or bust, AFC Championship or bust type of thing for them, that was so unrealistic. And I love how the Raiders pulled that little PR stunt move by bringing back Marshawn Lynch. All right? That's what that was. If not, they would have been giving Marshawn Lynch the ball a whole lot more during the season. I mean, now he's starting to get it a little bit more and he's starting to play a little bit better, but that was a PR move right there. Don't tell me that you brought back Marshawn Lynch because you needed him on the team. All right? I'm not going to believe it. The guy's from Oakland. He loves Oakland, talks about Oakland. Oakland loves him. That's why they brought him back. Oakland is trying to hide from the fact that they're going to Vegas. That's what it is. And you know what? For these fans trying to blame this season on Derek Carr, actually think for a second, you know? But as for the Cowboys, we're going to talk to them. I'll talk about them a little bit more in the third segment because they're going to be playing for the last playoff spot with the Detroit Lions and Atlanta Falcons. And boom, what a little connection we got there. Speaking of the Falcons, let's talk about their game Monday night. First off, Julio Jones, I have a problem with you, okay? I was down by 6 in one of my semifinal games in one of my fantasy football leagues. Like I said, all I needed was not even like 6 points. All I needed was about 5.7 points, 5.8. Just give me 58 yards. Can you do that? Yeah, sure, Jesse. I'll give you 54 yards in the first half so you don't have to really worry about the second half. I get one catch, boom, we're back in it. And we're in the final. You know what he does? Doesn't catch the ball in the second half. Okay, finishes the game, 3 catches for 54 yards. It hurts me to even talk about this. Yeah, so Julio Jones decided just not to show up. And you know what? I try not to get mad at players for not doing well in fantasy or whatever because it's not their job to. Just go out there and play well. But you know what? This one's personal. This one hurts. Julio Jones is by far, I don't hate Julio Jones, by far my most disliked player in the NFL. Do not like Julio Jones at all. Don't want your autograph. Don't want nothing. But, that hurts to talk about, man. I can't believe Julio Jones did that. But either way, let's talk about the game. Atlanta went into Tampa Bay. Atlanta won this one 24-21. Tampa Bay's now 4-10. I highly doubt that they bring back their coach, Dirk Cutter, back. I think I'm going to stick with Cutter. It's spelled Koetter. That's like Coetter, but you know what? I'm just going to call him Dirk Cutter. Atlanta's currently 9-5. They got the Saints and the Panthers coming up next 2 weeks. We'll talk about the whole playoff hunt for them coming up in the show. But Matt Ryan had 212 yards, 1 touchdown against a terrible... I'm frustrated. Devontae Freeman had 22 carries, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Led all Atlanta running backs, and he also led all Atlanta receivers too. Thanks a lot, Julio. Devontae Freeman had 5 catches for 68 yards, no touchdowns. And going back to Julio Jones stats, 3 catches, 54 yards, got shut down in the second half by good old Brent Grimes. Wow. Good job, Julio Jones. Yeah, you're sure one of the best receivers in the league. Yeah. You're really on Antonio Brown's level. No, you're not. Jameis Winston had 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. Peyton Barber led all Tampa Bay running backs with 13 carries, 53 yards. Mike Evans had 5 receptions for 79 yards and a touchdown. Cameron Brate, 4 catches, 49 yards, no touchdown. And Adam Humphries, is it Adam Humphries? Alex Humphries? I'm going to call him Adam. Adam Humphries had 5 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown. So let's talk about these teams going forward. Like I said, the Atlanta Falcons, they got the Saints coming up this week, and then they got the Carolina Panthers going week 17. I'm not going to make my pick for this game right now because we're going to do that in the last segment, but let's just say it's not looking good for the Atlanta Falcons going forward. And as for those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're starting to play a little better than what they had been in the beginning of the season, but nonetheless, I think Dirk Cutter's gone. This team really should have been playing for a playoff spot. The Bucs should have been playing a whole lot better than how they have been so far this season. Well, not even so far this season, for the season. The season's pretty much over. But Jameis Winston, like as far as he goes, I mean, he's got to figure out what to do next season in order to make himself become a great quarterback. Because right now he's just a good quarterback, and that's just about it. Everything else, I mean, he's still got a bunch of stuff to work on. But as far as the Falcons go, man, I mean, Tampa Bay's got one of the worst defenses in the league, and they can't even do much against this they can't even do much against one of the worst defenses in the league in Tampa Bay, all right? You got Julio Jones and a lot of offense, okay? Devontae Freeman's been producing. Julio Jones has pretty much been, I'll show up when I want. I'm not saying Julio Jones is a quit or anything like that, but I mean, it's one of the most inconsistent receivers this season. I mean, he's got that 253-yard receiving game, but what else does he got? Nothing, okay? A couple of 100-yard games probably, if that. Couple of touchdowns, but other than that, Julio Jones, big disappointment so far this season. And this has nothing to do with me talking about Julio right now. It has nothing to do with me losing my fantasy game either. I mean, yeah, I'm heard about it, but it's whatever. But if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I've been calling out the Falcons and their offense so far this season. Pretty much, it's a weekly thing, okay? Even if they win, I still call them out, okay? Because they're not playing up to their potential. Devontae Freeman's the only guy who's doing well. Tevin Coleman didn't play yesterday. Matt Ryan, what happened? You won the MVP last year, and now you're looking like an average quarterback. Okay, Julio Jones, built like you should be one of the better receivers in the league, and you can't even get like Brent. You can't even get open off of Brent Grimes. The dude's my size. He's like 5'6". Okay, wearing the right cleats, maybe he's 5'7", but the guy is 5'6", and you're letting him shut you down. Really? This Atlanta defense is out here been playing well all season, and Atlanta's offense has been garbage. Okay. This team can't put up consistent performances, and they're just simply not playing to the talent level that they got, and they don't deserve to make the playoffs. I'm sorry to say it. I don't care that they're 9-5. Atlanta does not deserve to make it to the playoffs. They're going to get bounced in the first round even if they do. So, I mean, like I said, we'll make my picks for Week 14, but Atlanta just really needs to step up their game because they really just haven't put it together this season. But that's actually going to be it for those two games right there. That's all I got to say about that. As for this next segment, we're going to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks, whether or not that whole window is closed, at least with this team, winning the Super Bowl and all that. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Detroit Lions, talk about the Dallas Cowboys a little bit more, talk about the Jaguars, and we'll talk about pretty much whoever else comes to mind. I mean, there's a lot to talk about as far as like the Packers and all. Like, there's a lot of storylines to talk about, so stay tuned. And we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. And that last segment, I went on a nice little rant about the Raiders, and deservedly so. I mean, that team's been disappointing all year, and these fans need to cool it off with Derek Carr. It's not his fault your receivers can't catch the ball, and it's not his fault he came back. I guess it is his fault that he came back off of a fractured back after a week. But, I mean, actually think for a second about why you guys are back, okay? Because, like, why are Raiders fans mad at Derek Carr when you got the worst defense in the league? Why? I mean, I understand this whole, we got to win the Super Bowl if we go to Oakland. We got to win something. Not going to happen, all right? It's not. Your defense is terrible, okay? Realize that. It's terrible, okay? It's bad. Nothing about your defense is good. You need to be mad at the guy who's in charge of personnel decisions and bringing those guys in. Because obviously that's his fault. It's his fault why you guys aren't going to the playoffs, why you're not going to be playing for the Super Bowl, and why you're not going to be in the AFC Championship. Same thing for next year. The defense doesn't get fixed. Don't expect anything new. Okay, you can't win the game just off of offense. Okay, you want to win big games. You want to make it to the AFC Championship. You want to make it to the Super Bowl. You need one of those things called defenses, but maybe they'll figure it out before they get to Vegas. And we talked about that Monday night game between the Falcons and Tampa Bay Bucks. But like I said, Falcons won that one 24-21, and still with the Falcons winning, they're 9-5. But I don't think they're making the playoffs. they need to play a whole lot better than what they've been, and they just simply haven't. But for this segment, we're going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks and a couple other teams. So let's just start off with the Seahawks right now. Is their whole Super Bowl window being a good team type of thing done? With this core team right here, like this specific team, yeah, they need to make some changes, okay? They're not... Well, let's start it off right here, okay? So they got blown out by the Rams in Seattle, okay? Seattle's supposed to be this whole thing where it's hard to play in December, okay? It's even hard to win in Seattle. And that's not even what it is, okay? The team's starting to fall apart. Earl Thomas, after the game against the Rams, goes out and says, you know what, Bobby Wagner's playing with a hurt hamstring. He should have just took himself out, and that would have helped the team because the backups would have played about as good as him, if not better. And then, of course, you know what we grown men do when someone calls us out? We don't go hash it out, all right? Talk to them one-on-one. You know what we do to fix our problems? We go to Twitter, okay? We are our dirty laundry on Twitter. We let the media and everyone else know, oh yeah, we have problems in our locker room. We go out and we tweet, and I quote from Bobby Wagner, keep my name out your mouth. Stop being jealous of other people's success. I still hope you keep balling, bro. End of quote. That's the tweet Bobby Wagner sent out after that. And he had a couple more tweets after that. I'm not sure if he's deleted them or whatnot. But, oh yeah, he did delete them. But either way, Bobby Wagner, you're not too smart of a guy, are you? Why would you go out, even if Earl Thomas is out here saying, Earl Thomas is thinking for the better of the team, okay? Bobby Wagner, you did play bad on Sunday. You did not play good. You let Todd Gurley do whatever he wanted against you. Okay, you let him run for 155 yards, I think it was, 3 touchdowns, and also let him catch a touchdown through the air. All right, don't get mad at Earl Thomas because he's telling the truth. And even as far as Earl Thomas goes, you don't go out and say that either, okay? You don't go out and say, oh yeah, Bobby shouldn't have gone out and played on hurt hamstring, okay? That's in-house. Okay? And I think this is Pete Carroll's fault right here. And here's why. Pete Carroll is like Rex Ryan, except dialed down a whole bunch, okay? Pete Carroll is fine with his players speaking their mind, going out and saying what they want, okay? But there's got to be a certain limit to it, and you got to pretty much bring the reins in a little bit, all right? You can't just go let these guys go out and say whatever they want because it's going to hurt the team, okay? You got Earl Thomas out here calling out Bobby Wagner, and then you got Bobby Wagner going out on Twitter calling him out too, all right? I'm not an expert by any means or anything like that. I'm just a guy with a podcast. But if I had to go out on a limb and say if your starting safety is going out, calling out your starting linebacker, and your starting linebacker, who's probably the best player on your defense, is going out calling out the safety on Twitter, chances are you're just not having a good season and the locker room's all messed up. Again, I'm not an expert, just a guy with a podcast, so what do I know, right? But either way, like I said, it's just Seattle, I mean, with this core team that they have, these guys that they have, they're not winning a Super Bowl again. They need to make some changes. Okay, Russell Wilson, obviously the guy. Doug Baldwin, great receiver, needs to be there, okay? But you know what? Seattle needs a running back. And that's another thing, okay? Why do teams, once they have good running backs and those running backs leave or retire or get cut, why do these teams think they can get by without a good running back, okay? I don't understand it. Go out and get a running back. Okay, Mike Davis isn't the guy. He's not going to go out and get you 100 yards, Pete Carroll. Use your head. Neither is big old Eddie Lacy, all right? That dude's done. They just brought in Eddie Lacy because the fans knew they needed a running back. And Eddie Lacy, that's all he is, just the name. Okay, he had what? A good year and a half in Green Bay, 2 years. And then what? Gains weight. Hasn't been anything since. Okay? J.D. McKissick, explosive player, okay, playmaker, but he's not going to be a guy who gets you 100 yards. All right? And like teams like the Colts did this, okay? After Edgerrin James, who was their best running back? Okay, obviously Frank Gore, I guess you could say, but Frank Gore is on the tail end of his career. He's not what he once was in San Francisco. Okay, Ahmad Bradshaw. Oh, Ahmad Bradshaw had that one good year. Ahmad Bradshaw, are you serious? Oh, yeah, 1 year. All right? It just makes no sense. Go out and get a running back. Okay? And as far as Earl Thomas goes, should Seattle even hold on to him? The dude's injured every year. Okay, you only get, 13, 12 games out of him a year? Hopefully that. It's just, Seattle, just like I said, they need to not blow it up like how teams do rebuilding, but they need to blow it up. I'd say get rid of Earl Thomas, okay? I'd say pick up a new running back. Pick up another receiver, please. Okay? Maybe trade away Richard Sherman, maybe, or keep him nonetheless. I mean, dude's been in the rumors for the last couple of years. Obviously, they're trying to do something with him. Not even sure what Cam Chancellor's going to do after this year, all right? Seattle just pretty much needs to just make a bunch of changes, all right? Bring in better players, okay? Pretty much this team's whole window of winning a Super Bowl, like I said, this core team with these players that they got, it's done. They're not winning another Super Bowl with this team. They need to go out. You got the quarterback. Go out and make some changes. Go get a running back. Go get better defensive players who could stay healthy. Go get another receiver, a number 2, so Doug Baldwin doesn't get doubled all the time. Go out and do something. Use your head, Seattle. Do something. Or else you're just going to waste away your years. You know what? This is the beginning of the end for Pete Carroll, I think. Pete Carroll does this everywhere he goes. All right? He'll leave and something bad happens. He left USC. They got all those sanctions. All right? This is the beginning of the end for Pete Carroll, I think. It's going to take a couple of years before he's gone in Seattle. But this is the beginning of the end. I'm going to save this whole little episode right here and play it again for you guys in a couple of years. This is the beginning of the end for Pete Carroll. It's how it always goes wherever he goes. We haven't really heard much for Pete Carroll since Earl Thomas and Bobby Wagner had their thing. Have we? At least I haven't. So, we'll see. But, like I said, as far as this whole core team goes, this specific team right here, the players they got, this team ain't winning in the Super Bowl going forward. This is the Rams division. You need to go out and you need to build a team that is capable of beating the Rams. You're not the best team in the NFC West anymore. All right? And then you got Arizona, who's bad, but you know who you got that might be coming up pretty soon? San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo, looking like a good quarterback, looking like a great quarterback. All right? I've never been too fond of the 49ers. It's what I've been taught. It's what I know. But you know what? I got to be professional here, okay? I got to give the 49ers their props. I got to say Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a great quarterback for that team. I got to say that he's got them on a 3-game winning streak, all right? I got to go out and say he's making Marquise Goodwin look like a complete receiver. And I got to go out and say that this team isn't far off from competing again. All right, so Seattle really needs to figure it out, or else San Francisco's going to jump them. And you know what? The Rams already did. So, I mean, Seattle can do whatever they want, but like I said, the Rams are already past due. That's the best team in the division. That's the team to beat in your division. And San Francisco 49ers aren't too far off, okay? A couple of good picks right here in this new draft, upcoming draft, and they're going to be right there. But, I mean, San Francisco, of course, that whole depends on them re-signing Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think if they don't, John Lynch is the dumbest GM of all time. But I'm sure they will. So, Seattle, figure it out. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. This team is going to make the playoffs. Ugh. Them or the Cowboys. I'm picking Detroit. I want Matt Stafford in the playoffs. One of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I like the way he plays. Don't think he gets his fair shake in the league either. Detroit right now, they got who do they got this week? The Bengals. And then they got the Packers. They're going to win both of those games. You know who's going to lose their next 2 games? The Falcons. Why? They play the Saints this week, and they play the Panthers. Falcons just haven't been able to put it together on offense. Defense has been playing well, but like I said, that offense has just been inconsistent. You can't be inconsistent against the Panthers or the Saints. Saints lost to them a couple weeks ago. They're not going to let that happen again. I promise you that. All right, so Detroit really just has to worry about the Cowboys, okay, because Green Bay's out of it. Seattle's done. Okay, they're going to lose to Dallas this week, and we'll talk more about it when I'm making my picks in the next segment. But, I mean, Dallas, that's going to be a dangerous team if they find a way to get into the playoffs. You got Ezekiel Elliott coming back. You win these next 2 games. Boom, you could be that 6th seed. And who would they be playing? I think they'd be playing the Rams. And you know what? The Rams are a great team, too. That'd be a good game right there. Dallas versus LA. But, I mean, like I said, last year this team went 13-3 with Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, okay? They started off hot, and then Ezekiel Elliott started that suspension. They kind of gotten through it, okay? First couple of games, didn't play well. Dak Prescott's done well to bring in the reins, all right? So, Dallas, if they get in the playoffs, that's going to be a dangerous team. And you know what? I'm going to be a little careful saying this, but as a team, you know, if they get in, watch out. Maybe Super Bowl contenders, maybe. I don't know. But either way, I mean, they really need to figure it out. And as far as the AFC goes, I mean, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've been kind of, is this team, like, are they capable of making it to the Super Bowl? Yeah, they are actually now. All right? Steelers, they have no defense. They don't. The Patriots, they're probably the best regular season team. But are you going to tell me that Tom Brady, the guy who doesn't play well when there's pressure in his face, He's going to play well against the Jaguars' best defense in the league. All right, and if you don't think the Jaguars have the best defense in the league, or you don't think it's that good, you either just pretty much, or an AFC South fan, just have it in your mind that the Jaguars are the Jaguars, and they're just not a good team because they haven't been the last, 10 years? 7 years? 8 years? One of those? Okay? If you don't think that the Jaguars have the number one defense in the league, you're flat out wrong. There's no opinion on this, okay? There's no argument to be made against them, not against them being the best defense in the league. It is what it is. They're the best defense in the league. All right? It's true. Like I said, there's no argument against it. All right? And as far as Jacksonville goes on offense, I mean, they got one of the best running backs in the league in Leonard Fournette. I know the guy's a rookie, but he is one of the best running backs in the league. All right, then you got Blake Bortles his last couple of games who's been playing well. Okay, let's say they win their wild card game and they face off with a team like Pittsburgh. Remember what happened in the beginning of the season? I know Pittsburgh fans for sure do. I know they don't want to see Jacksonville in the playoffs. Doesn't matter what they say. I know Pittsburgh fans can be pretty confident. But you know what? I wouldn't want to see Jacksonville in the playoffs. Because you know what you need in the playoffs? A solid defense and a solid running game. They got the best defense and one of the best running backs. Okay? They have no problem playing in cold Pittsburgh or playing in cold New England. Okay? Let's say Blake Bortles isn't playing all too well. Oh, well, let me just give the ball to my running back and Leonard Fournette and let me run all over this Pittsburgh or New England defense. Oh, but we got Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady. Okay, let my defensive line get pressure to the quarterback, and I say they're not. Okay, let me get it to my receivers. Oh, sorry, he's covered by Jalen Ramsey. Oh, sorry, he's covered by A.J. Boye. Sorry, you have nothing over the top. The safeties are right there. Oh, I can't even check down on my running back because those linebackers are there. Jacksonville is a dangerous team. This is a team that can and probably will go to the AFC Championship. And this is a team, if Jacksonville were to make it to the Super Bowl, they're not going to be my Super Bowl pick right now. We still got a couple of weeks for that. But if Jacksonville was to be in the Super Bowl game, that's my pick to win it. It doesn't matter who they'd be playing. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Defense wins championships. Everyone needs to learn that. Okay? Watch out for Jacksonville. If I'm Pittsburgh or New England, I'm worried about playing them in the divisional round. All right? You can be confident all you want. Pittsburgh fans, go look at that Jacksonville game early on in the season. All right? Oh, yeah, the Pittsburgh team was different. Yeah. This Jacksonville defense got a whole lot better. Leonard Fournette, still rushing for 100 yards. Blake Bortles got a whole lot better than what he was. New England, like, if there was a team who were to beat Jacksonville, it's going to be Pittsburgh. New England, I think, has no shot at beating Jacksonville in the playoffs. I don't care if it's in New England. I don't care who's coaching them. Jacksonville's beating New England in the playoffs. I'm calling that right now. All right? So we'll see how it all ends up. But I think it's going to end up being Pittsburgh and Jacksonville in the divisional round. And I still think Jacksonville can blow them out again. So we'll see. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to be making our Week 16 picks. And pretty much that's what's going to be it for the next segment. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. If you missed that last segment, or I'm not even going to say that. All right, last segment we talked about the Seattle Seahawks and whether or not this team's whether or not their whole Super Bowl window has closed. Yeah, it has. Okay, they need to make changes. All right, and I was even talking about how it might even be the beginning of the end for Pete Carroll in Seattle. Okay, because every time he leaves somewhere, it's not good. Something bad happens. He left USC. They got all those sanctions. Okay? Seattle right now, it's looking like they really need to make some changes as far as player personnel goes. All right. They need to pick up a number 2 receiver. They need to actually get a real running back, okay? They need to figure out what's going to happen at safety because Earl Thomas can't stay healthy. We're not sure if Cam Chancellor is going to be back. All right, and they need to fix up that corner position, okay? Because Richard Sherman's name has been in trade talks the last couple of years. Okay, good if you keep him, good on you. But I mean, you still need a number 2, so they really just need to figure it out and figure out what's going on. This team looks like it's the beginning of the end for them. I think, like I said, you got the Rams. That's their division now. I don't care if it's the first year of the Rams being good. It's their division. Don't argue with it. Just accept it. It is what it is. All right. Then you got the San Francisco 49ers, who are still rebuilding, but they're not far behind you. That team's going to be competing next year if they re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo, as they probably will. Dude's out there looking like a great quarterback. I was hesitant on him just based off of him only having 2 starts in New England, but I mean, these last 3 starts, the guy's gotten better as each game has progressed. So, I mean, they got their quarterback. They got a young defense who's going to be playing well. You need to pick up a few guys on the secondary to help bolster that, make that secondary better. Linebackers are pretty good. D-line's young and healthy, playing well. I'm not sure how that offensive line is looking right now. Probably need a new number 1 receiver, okay, because Pierre Garçon's not going to be that guy. He's a number 2 or number 3, if that. Marquise Goodwin has been playing well with Garoppolo out there. Probably need a new running back. But nonetheless, I mean, they're out here on a 3-game winning streak, competing and playing well. So, I mean, Seattle's got to watch out because San Francisco's not far behind anymore. But we talked about them. We talked about Detroit and Dallas. Talked about how those teams, one of those teams is going to make the playoffs. One of those 2. Okay, I don't trust the Falcons at all. Don't think that offense is consistent enough to beat the Saints or the Panthers. And talked about how the Jaguars, if I'm the Steelers or the Patriots, I'm afraid to play them in the playoffs. All right, I know the Patriots and the Steelers have pretty much been the big boys of the AFC the last, 6, 7 years, 10 years. But you know what? Pittsburgh got blown out by Jacksonville early on in the season. And Pittsburgh fans say, oh, it was early on in the season. We weren't playing that good. Now we're playing really well. Oh, yeah, so are the Jaguars. Jaguars defense is playing even better than what it was in the beginning of the season. It's the best defense in the league. Leonard Fournette's still playing well. Blake Bortles got a whole lot better. All right? Oh, they can't play in Pittsburgh or New England. It's cold weather. Oh, well, I guess, yeah, cold weather. It means they got to run the ball and get stops. Oh, wow, yeah, Jacksonville's not going to want to do that. These teams should be worried about playing Jacksonville right now. And Jacksonville very well might end up in the AFC Championship. If they play the Patriots, I think they can beat the Patriots. I mean, the only way that one of the Steelers or Patriots makes it to the, I think if it was Pittsburgh versus, I think Pittsburgh is the only, this is going to sound weird, okay? Pittsburgh got blown out early on in the season by Jacksonville. But I think if it was going to come down to the Patriots or Steelers having a chance at beating Jacksonville, it's going to be the Steelers who are going to beat Jacksonville. It's not going to be the Patriots. Tom Brady can't play with pressure in his face. He can't. Those receivers aren't good and aren't better than Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. Okay? Gronkowski, those linebackers are good enough to limit him. Those safeties, good enough to limit him also. Okay? Running back's not going to do anything. New England isn't fit to beat the Jaguars. I'll tell you that right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers, yeah, they got blown up, but they've seen them play before. They played them before, so they know what this team is. But like I said, we guys got to wait and see. But let's get into these picks right now for Week 16. Saturday, December 23rd, we got the Indianapolis Colts heading into Baltimore. Ooh, what a game we got. Can't wait to see Andrew Luck versus the Ravens. Oh, wait, he's not playing? Okay, yeah, Ravens by 20. All right, Colts got no shot in this game. Ravens are playing well. They're going to make the playoffs. That's going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs. They're going to beat the Chiefs when they play them in that wild card game. And as far as the Colts go, I mean, congrats, you got 3 wins out of this season. As for the Vikings, they're heading into Green Bay facing off with the Packers. Packers put Aaron Rodgers on injured reserve a couple days ago. Brett Hundley's back. Brett Hundley's throwing at least 2 picks in this game, and the Vikings are shutting down all of those Green Bay Packers receivers. Vikings are winning big in this one. As for Sunday, we got the Miami Dolphins heading into Kansas City facing off with the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs in this one. Miami, you had Jake Cutler play well. I mean, the whole Miami team played well Monday night. 2 weeks ago against the Patriots on Monday night. They go out, play their best game of the season. All right, Jake Cutler has one of his best games of his career. You know what they do against Buffalo? They go out and play terrible. They play like garbage. Jake Cutler comes out, throws 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Okay, Kansas City's coming off of a 30-13 win against the LA Chargers. And Kareem Hunt's coming off of, I think, a 155-yard rushing performance with a touchdown. Dude's going to come out and probably play well against the Dolphins, too. So I got the Chiefs in this one, no doubt about that, really. Then you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading into Carolina, facing off with the Panthers. Panthers by a touchdown. Panthers by 2 touchdowns in this game. Okay, Tampa played a good game against the Atlanta Falcons, but Atlanta's offense really has been inconsistent all year. Really haven't been playing well, and they got a lot of work to do. But, I mean, Tampa Bay's got one of the worst defenses in the league, so, I mean, you should be playing a whole lot better than that. But I think Carolina's going to be able to. Cam Newton's probably going to go for at least 3 touchdowns, whether it's through the air or on the ground. Probably going to throw for around 250 yards, have at least 70 rushing yards. So I think it's going to be a blowout for the Panthers right here. As for this next game, we got the Cleveland Browns facing off with the Chicago Bears. All right, Cleveland had 2 great chances to go out and get their first win of the season. The first one being against the Chargers, the second one being against the Green Bay Packers. Okay, they lost to the Chargers 19-10. They lost to the Packers in overtime 27-21. They gave that game up against the Packers. They should have won that game without a doubt. All right. They lost to the Ravens, I think, 27-10, 21-10. One of those scores, doesn't matter. Browns got blown out. All right, now they got the Bears in Chicago. Mitch Trubisky's been playing all right. Jordan Howard's been kind of off and on these last, 6 weeks. Okay, Chicago ain't got no receivers. That defense is all right. So, obviously, you know who I have. I have the Browns. I'm going with the Browns, okay? I don't think this team is bad enough to where they can't win a game in one season. I just don't think they have to pull it out right here. This has got to be the game right here where they pull out their first win. All right? This team has got talent. They're the youngest team in the league, and I think that really has to do with why they haven't won a game this season. They're the youngest team in NFL history, I think. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's pretty much why they haven't been able to win a game, okay? Because it's not like they've been getting blown out every game. Yeah, they didn't play well against the Baltimore Ravens last week. But before that, they weren't getting blown out in games, okay? They were still being in it, being competitive. And I think this is going to be the game where they get it done. All right? That Cleveland Browns defense isn't bad or anything like that. This is formidable defense. It's a solid defense right there, okay? I think they're going to be able to limit Chicago Bears offense. Hopefully they don't limit Jordan Howard too much because I need him in my fantasy championship this week. But either way, I think the Browns are going to go out and pull this game, pull out a win right here. Josh Gordon's going to play well, I think. Then you got Isaiah Crowell, who I think is going to play well. And I just think that there's no way the Browns are going 0-16. I just don't think that they're bad enough, okay? Detroit Lions, they went 0-16. That team was garbage. This team is not as bad as that Detroit Lions team. So I got the Browns against the Bears. As for the Lions, they're heading into Cincinnati. I got the Lions by 1 million in this one. Cincinnati's a bad team. Probably going to be getting rid of Marvin Lewis after the season. Or they might just do the good old Bengals thing and just hire him and give him an extension. They shouldn't, but that's probably what they're going to do. I got Detroit big time in this one. And like I said, they're going to be competing for a playoff spot. Buffalo Bills facing off with the New England Patriots. The Bills aren't making the playoffs this year. All right. You get the Chargers facing off with the Jets this week. I got the Chargers in that one, okay? That's going to put them at 8-7. Then you got the Buffalo Bills, of course, like I said, playing the New England Patriots. New England's winning that one. Rob Gronkowski's going for at least 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Calling that right now. No, it's too much. 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. But like I said, that'll put the Bills at 8-7. You know what that does to the Bills? That takes them out of the wild card spot, moves them back down to number 7. Chargers get that spot because Chargers got the head-to-head tiebreaker. Okay? Week 17 comes. Chargers got the terrible Raiders. Bills got the terrible Dolphins. Chargers are winning their game against the Raiders. Dolphins are going to win their game against the Bills and pretty much end their season. I'm not saying that because of anything. I'm saying that because the Bills know how to put on a good show when to break their fans' hearts, okay? They do it year after year. Okay, and it's going to happen again. This time it just happened a little bit later than usual. Bills aren't making the playoffs. I would put money on that. But once again, I got the Patriots beating the Bills. I mean, they could never really cover Rob Gronkowski. He has his best game against the Bills. Tom Brady is going to win the MVP of the series. He's been playing well. He's going to do well against the Bills, like I said. And then that defense, like Tyrod Taylor and that offense is going to be able to do well against that New England Patriots defense. So I got the Patriots beating the Bills, and the Bills aren't making the playoffs. I promise you that. As for the Falcons, they're heading to New Orleans. You guys all know how I feel about the Falcons. Saints are winning this one, and I have no doubts about that. Talked about the Chargers and Jets game. Well, I hadn't talked about it. I said the Chargers are winning, but Jets really aren't that good of a team, and I think the Chargers are going to bounce back from a bad loss last week. Then you got the Rams facing off with the Titans. Titans have pretty much phoned it in these last couple of weeks, and they're going to continue to do so for the rest of for these next 2 weeks. All right, Rams are winning that one big right there. Then you got the Broncos facing off with the Redskins in the GSMC Sports Podcast. I picked the Broncos because I did eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I'm just going to stick to that pick. I got the Broncos against the Redskins. The Jaguars are going to pretty much destroy the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to throw a couple of picks in this game. I was talking good about him earlier, but that Jaguars defense is no joke. All right, then you got the New York Giants facing off with the Arizona Cardinals. I got the Giants in that one. I think Eli Manning is going to be able to pull out a win. Blaine Gabbert's not going to be able to do enough to beat the Giants. Then you got the Seattle Seahawks going into Dallas facing off with the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott's back. Dallas Cowboys are winning this game. The Seahawks are out of playoff contention with his loss. And then on Monday, Christmas Day, I can't wait for Monday now. I forgot that there's games on Christmas this year. You got the Steelers facing off with the Texans. I got the Steelers by 1 million in this one. Texans have no shot, and Juju Smith-Schuster's going to have a big game. As for the Raiders and Eagles, of course, I got the Eagles. Raiders have no defense, so there's no reason for me to pick them. Nick Foles came out and threw 4 touchdowns against the New York Giants defense, and you know what? The Raiders defense is by far worse than the Giants one. So Nick Foles is going to have a good game here. J.J., LeGarrette Blount, doesn't matter who it is, they're going to run all over that defense, and the Eagles are going to pull out the win. So that's actually going to wrap it up for this segment. Sorry to say it, but we won't be back till next Friday because of Christmas coming up. And, we'll just be back next Friday, but that's going to wrap it up for today's show, like I said. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. Thanks for listening. This was a fun show throughout. We talked about pretty much recap the Week 15 games. Talked about the Sunday night and Monday night games between the Dallas Cowboys and Oakland Raiders from last week. Talked about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Atlanta Falcons game. Talked about why the Seattle Seahawks, this core team right here, this team that they got right now specifically, Super Bowl window has closed. And we pretty much made my picks for this week too. So, like I said, this is the GSMC Football Podcast. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. Again, we won't be back till next Friday, so we'll see you then. Everyone have a good Christmas, whether you're spending it with your family or your friends. Just nonetheless, have a good one. So that's going to be it. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.